So part 3 of Laid Off Chronicles. This is Crystal, your holistic menopause wellness coach. And we're talking today about Black women being laid off from the job. What does it mean and what we basically should do about it and what I'm going to do about it. So as I'm teaching Takumbo, where I left off at was I'm teaching a co-worker who was the data analyst, my marketing job, and how excited he was to take over my role, and had no compassion, no sympathy, no empathy for me whatsoever. And how I felt about that. I'm like, especially him being so new on the team, it was just amazing how people were so nonchalant. And I wasn't the only one that got laid off. Actually, I thought more were going to be laid off. Because the way they were talking, like, oh yeah, we have to lay a lot of people off. They laid off me and another girl who was on Michelle. Michelle is the manager I mentioned in videos 1 and 2 that I did not get along with. They laid her off, which began to make me think, okay. Because let's call this other co-worker Sandra. Sandra also had problems with Michelle. So much so that she filed an employee complaint against Michelle. I'm like, okay. And then I found out later, only 4 more people got laid off. And they were all temps, contractors. So you can just end their assignments whatsoever. So out of like maybe 30 people, that are regular employees and staff members, permanent staff members, only 2, me and her. Like, okay. Yes, we did lose grants. As I mentioned, we fired our grant coordinators back in July because they were having problems, and they filed lawsuits. And it was a male and a female, and she filed a lawsuit against sexual harassment, and she was having problems. When the female grant coordinator, she was having problems with Michelle as well. The male grant coordinator was having problems with Michelle as well, because he was trying to tell her, she was trying to move money from here, robbing Paul's grant to pay to fill in Peter's grant because they mismanaged the funds, allegedly. And he was trying to tell her, no, you can't do that. You can't do this. You can't move money from this grant to cover up this grant, blah, 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 blah. So she got rid of both of them because she did not like having her incompetence called into question. But if you're trying to do your job and you're used to doing your job well and you're used to having autonomy, like my team did. In first video, I said we had like an outreach team which had more lived experiences. They were former addicts and people who went to jail or prison or had addictions. And then we had the education team, which is my team. We're more highly educated. We all have higher degrees. And with me working in the marketing department, I too also had to tell her, no, you can't. You can't say that. They wanted to have an event where like a trivia, one of our events, we had quarterly learning collaboratives where we had events, and they want to call it Jeopardy. I said, no, you can't call it Jeopardy because Jeopardy is a trademark brand by Sony. We get our pants taken in lawsuits from that. So because she stopped asking me and bringing me into meetings, marketing meetings for our events, so I can say, no, this is not going to work. This will work better. No, not this speaker. It's not going to fit our demographic. What are we trying to do here? What's the message here? She would just go ahead and make these arbitrary decisions. Another example, Michelle called me at 8 o'clock at night saying, oh, Crystal, what do I do? Something happened with an event that we went to, and we sent some outreach workers, and now the city where we had the event, they're being investigated for misappropriation of addiction treatment funds. What she didn't tell me was that she took the program's letterhead, the addiction treatment program's letterhead, say allegedly, even though I saw it, it was all over the news here in my state, saying that our organization, our medical school, fully supported this town's addiction treatment activities and events. So it looked like we supported them and using the funds and misappropriating the funds. So she called me frantic because now it's on the newspaper, it's on the radio, it's everywhere. But if she would have consulted me as the PR marketing person, I would have told her, no, we're not going to do that. And then we would have had a bigger meeting with the main PR and marketing people of the entire medical school. So I had to write a letter to cover myself because they're quick for throwing people under the bus, saying I had nothing to do with it. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even know she had the logo for the letterhead. She made her own letterhead. I actually saw the letter that she wrote on a very, very influential media organization's website when they were covering the story. I was like, oh Lord God. So they were like, Crystal, we know you didn't have anything to do with it. We know. So now she's under investigation. It was just a lot of shady things going down in that organization, and they're always trying to cover their tracks because things weren't set up well in the beginning. So once I showed Takumbo how to do my job, he was like, well, I know I have some very big shoes to fill. I know, you're very good, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, okay. So towards the end, me and Sandra, the other full-time and permanent employee, her and I were talking. And we just realized that, it's just better for her and I to leave because what they're doing in that program, it's a grant-funded program within a medical school for addiction treatment. It's slowly starting to catch up with them. And I believe that my former manager, let's call her Rebecca, she was a white tea lady. Literally, she was there for 2 years. And then one day we were having a meeting and she said, oh, well, I'm leaving. I have a new job. I'm leaving next week. Huh? What? Huh? It was almost like she saw the hole in the boat. And as a rat, let's just call a metaphorical rat. Rats at the bottom of the boats and they jump off the boat before it sinks. She literally jumped off the boat because she saw it was sinking, and it was sinking fast. So in a way, I feel grateful that I am off that version of the Titanic. Now, even though I don't like being unemployed, and join me for Laid Off Chronicles 4. I got another story. I had 2 jobs. I have another story about that. See you in Laid Off Chronicles 4.